Anime is a vast and varied medium, and if you're not already familiar, it can be daunting to find something you might be interested in watching. This is a podcast where three average anime enjoyers introduce their uninitiated co-host to their favorite anime touchstones, so he can join them deep in the Weebs. A boy has a right to dream. This week we watched the first 4 episodes of Outlaw Star. Outlaw Star is a space opera / space western seinen series about Gene Starwind and his motley crew of an inherited ship dubbed the Outlaw Star as they search for a legendary outer space treasure trove called the Galactic Leyline. The original 21-chapter manga series by Takehiko Ito were published between 1996 and 1999, and subsequently collected into 3 volumes. Sunrise produced a 26-episode anime adaptation that aired in 1998 in Japan. The English version aired on Toonami in early 2001 and later on Adult Swim in 2002. The broadcast of the show was heavily edited due to its adult content. Profanity was removed, scenes with violence and lewd behavior were cut or toned down, and many scenes containing nudity were altered by digitally inserting clothing onto the character.
Can I just start?
Yeah, I was going to say, this one was on a couple of our lists.
I also kind of have a personal subtitle for this show.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, you know, that series which Joss Whedon completely cribbed off of for Firefly. Because if you watch this, and then you watch Firefly and how it has its lovely opening and introduction of the character of River, you know, there's a lot of similarities.
I mean, girl in a box anime is an ever-recurring trope.
Really?
True.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was going to say, this is technically my second girl in a box anime.
What kind of delivery service do they have? Don't they put these things through X-ray scanners or something?
Listen, you call
Bob
up Kiki and, she'll get you what you need.
Bob, after the podcast, I'm going to tell you about vending machines in Japan.
Oh my god, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the other reason I kind of throw shade at Joss Whedon is, as mentioned in the description, this is a sci-fi space opera / space western, much like the Firefly.
Yeah, but even in this series of shows we're watching, this is like the, 4th or 5th one?
Right. It's just
Yeah,
a
we
lot
do
of the
have
visual language.
Space westerns.
Well, they're good. And then again,
It'll become a genre unto itself.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just saying, there's a lot of visual language here that kind of translates over it. I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
just throwing it out there. And like I said, that's my personal subtitle. But yeah, no, this was my very first anime way back in the day when this was on the Midnight Run.
Oh, that was a fancy one. That's where there was less censoring.
And I will say, I think I watched the uncensored version, so...
Yeah, I think all the ones on streaming and stuff are the original uncut version.
Which I don't see it compared to what mature audiences would be referred to today as quite that level.
But yeah, I mean, when it was on Toonami, you're aiming at like a
They have very specific tone down any overt sexual or sexuality type stuff, which includes nudity.
Yeah, but that's like a TV-14. So one of the ones I remember specifically is in the first episode, when Jim is like, "So why do you got your hand on her ass?" And you cut to it, and he just rips his hand off. It's just that much is cut. It's like, oh, okay, you are just not. Let me tell you. There's very, very slight mentions of Gene being some sort of sex pest in the original Toonami airings, and just it's actually all over it here.
In the episode, what was it, 3rd episode, when they're talking about, hey, you popped your cherry. Let me tell you, that got a heavy redub.
That whole list, yeah. Anyway.
just need to stop saying that.
Yeah. In fact, Bob, to a point, this was back in the day when 26 episode single season series were common. And you would see those 26 episodes on Toonami. This was a 25 episode series. The actual missing episode at the time, we're going to go on the way back machine, only existed on VHS, later DVD and Blu-ray and streaming. And let me tell you, I bought the final tape of Outlaw Star once upon a time. And I'm like, what's this episode? I don't remember. This is why I don't remember.
You don't
this
remember
one.
the Hot Springs episode?
The gratuitous fan service episode never made it to air because there is no censoring that episode.
It ends up being a 5-minute episode with 25 minutes of commercials.
Yeah, basically.
But it's a Hot Spring episode where they explain how the guns that shoot magic spells work. It's the coolest. It's one of my favorite episodes for that.
And that's the thing that pissed me off the most when I remember when I first watched. I'm like, that makes so much more sense than what I had beforehand. Where was this? Why? Oh yeah, that's why. TNA for 18 of the 20-minute runtime. Okay.
That episode, they did air that episode in 2018 on Adult Swim. But they made it a TV MA rating. And they still did some minor edits because like Aisha's nipples are visible at some point, so they took that out. But
all of Aisha is visible at some point.
The strongest Aisha in the galaxy. So, do we want to jump in, or do you just want to keep sort of gushing holistically?
I will just say, I have this is the series for me. I know Bebop really does it for a lot of people. This is the one that does it for me on the on the lived-in aesthetic. Everything in this universe feels lived in. Nothing feels sterile and clean or Star Trek-esque. This is very form and function are one and the same, and I just love it.
Yeah, I definitely have some notes about that in like 2 and 4.
But yeah, let's go ahead and jump in. Bob, tell us about episode 1.
Oh, episode 1 introduces us to Gene and Jim, and let me just say, having them play poker is interesting. I thought that Gene kind of stood out as being a little kid in the bar, and then talking about how he is able to draw in the women, and it's like, wow, Jim, you need to calm down, because he really is that smart little kid. At least we got him introduced early on, as opposed to waiting for episode 4 or 5. However, if I recall, that this episode actually starts with a fight in space.
Yes, it does.
Cold open on grappler combat.
Yeah, the cold opens of this series are just perfect.
And is this the only episode where they don't start with a in-universe explanation of some random fact that leads into the episode?
No, but a lot of like the ones that don't are at the end. It's essentially the last episode, and I think maybe the one before. Everything else essentially has exposition, the cold open, but they're such good expositions.
Narrated by Jet Black.
Yes! I was going to get to that in the next episode, but yes, it's like, yo, we heard you like Bebop. Here's some Bo Billingsley for you. Just eat your heart out.
So it doesn't take much of a stretch. I know it's very clearly explained later on, but it's Gene that's the red-haired kid in the grapple battle. And I don't know. Until they got further on explaining the differences between the different classes and why these things would happen, I was like, well, that's kind of unfortunate. Go ahead.
I was just saying, the one thing I really appreciate about when they introduce Gene is, for as happy-go-lucky, they don't waste a lot of time showing, it's like, this guy's got a lot of baggage.
He's covered in scars.
Which they never explain.
I'm going to save my character analyses for episode 4. Just know that Gene is definitely one of the more interesting characters, and the one that I see myself actually in the most.
I think a lot of people do, but yeah, I'll agree with you. We'll save that for there. I just like that it's like he goes from happy-go-lucky to, well, I paid for it, and I'm still not really happy.
Mhm. So later on, we are introduced to a space battle as well with Ice Hot Hilda. Did I got her name right?
Hot
Hot
Ice Hilda, yeah.
Spiky.
Oh, yeah, it's right there. And Ice. Anyway, so Hilda is an interesting character. Something happens to her which makes her crash on the ship. I don't remember this part. Oh my goodness! I know she ends up on the planet.
So she was in a fight with the non-named sect of space pirates
Yes.
of small, medium, and large, and they pretty much hound her into a getaway. Which in my notes, like, that's the coolest getaway. It's like, no, we've got you. We've locked you down. Like, nah, FTL, bye.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go back.
Screw the haters, go. And then so she goes to Sentinel 3, where we meet Jean, Jim,
And Death Rob.
Death Rob.
Oh,
Thank
yes,
you. I was
Death
trying
Rob.
to think of
Oh
the
my goodness!
bartender and his waitress.
So
But,
ridiculous. Anyway, we got
Death
Death Rob,
with the manufacturer guaranteed weak spot.
but we're introduced to the fact that cyborgs exist in this universe.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm trying to believe it's another one of those common tropes.
Yep.
There are a lot of cyborgs and a lot of different things.
Oh, trust me, we have very cyborg heavy shows coming up in later tiers.
Yo, I heard you like Cyborg.
Fortunately, Jim is there to be like, oh, he's a 6, I think it was. You need to attack here.
C-type frame or something?
Yes, he's a C-type. Go for his weak spot.
I do love how this opening fight like immediately just sort of paints their relationship as a duo, where it's just like Jean is it's the muscle and the brains, because like but also the way that they like, part of it is the way that this show is like not going out of its way to explain everything about the world to the viewer. It's just like they're just saying stuff, and like you're getting a picture of what this means. It's like, oh, cyborgs are real. Oh, this other thing. Oh, okay. But then also like they're just saying stuff to each other, and it's just like, oh, it's a type C, and he's just like, got it, I know what that means, I'll go here. It's like I just love seeing the way that they're setting up. They're like, yeah, no, these are a competent pair of like kids, basically, when you learn that Jean is only supposed to be 20.
Yeah, man-child and his 12-year-old keeper with, the maturity of a 50-year-old.
Uh-huh. But he runs the business.
Yeah.
Using one of his magic bullets, which cost a lot of money, according to Jim, we find out he's down to 2 of this particular bullet. Takes out, Death Rob.
Oh no, that was with a knife.
Was that with
the caster comes later.
Yeah,
that was a knife.
I got it reversed. I'm sorry. Yeah. He runs into a lady named
Rachel Sweet.
Rachel Sweet.
Sweet old Rachel Sweet, who clearly is
Totally
not anyone
name.
else. There's no setup here whatsoever. Rachel Sweet is like hiring them because she needs particular parts that deal with micro robotics. Bodyguard. I don't understand why she needed a bodyguard.
She sounds nothing at all like Hilda.
You think that's why? So she could throw some shade off of herself?
I'm sure that's what it was.
Yeah, like definitely, because she knows like, hey, I mean like that was the whole thing, right? It's like she knew that she was being pursued by the K pirates, and so like actually was just like, I do actually need some help keeping them off my back while I get Melfina off of this planet.
Oh, I thought we were being sarcastic about Rachel's motives. Yeah, absolutely. It's, oh no, I'm going to be followed. I have a thing. There's a MacGuffin we'll deal with eventually. And they want me dead for reasons. Of course they're going to come get me. I need someone to, Operation Human Meat Shield.
I mean, she tries to give the excuse of just like, oh, this is a dangerous place and I'm so new here. But it's just like, yeah, no, nobody's buying that.
What do you mean, Nick? As Jim tells the audience, all of her credentials are green.
Yeah, but the actual readout on the computer is like, figure, good. It's just like,
Yeah.
I'm surprised it doesn't have her like butt size on there in inches. Well, centimeters,
Listen,
I suppose.
I have a belief that in universe lore somewhere, my headcanon is Gene wanted that information. Jim talked him down to just body type.
Eventually, the gay pirates catch up to him. And flashback for me as I ponder this episode. At the beginning, you are, well, close to the beginning, you're introduced to the villains. And they are the most villainy of all villains I've ever seen. You've got Old Man Dr. Robotnik, who have weird, plaster face man, and then Batroc the Leaper flying around in the spaceship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, small, medium, and large.
Old, girl, and sword. The three genders.
Yeah.
But the pirates catch up, and, they go to battle afterwards because Hilda is definitely concerned about this package. She shoots Gene, right?
She does.
Yeah.
She just cold guns him.
And forces Jim to help with getting the package. And I'm really super shortening this, so I apologize.
No, you're fine.
The container is opened and bum 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 nudity.
Well, we also did kind of gloss over the Gene not dead.
Yeah, it hit the little Nintendo DS in his pocket, so he's actually fine.
Which, like, there's definitely a problem in anime where sometimes you have the, like, idiot savant who is either, like, just, like, dumb but impossibly talented, like your who's that fool? We were just talking about Mr. Trigun, Vash.
Vash.
Like you have like a Vash who is just like, oh no, I'm just a simple idiot, but actually I'm the most talented dude you've ever seen. But then like sometimes you have the sort of protagonist who is just like, well, like I'm decent, but actually my min-max stat is luck, and that's the way I get through everything. And I got to give it to Gene, like he survives that on luck, but like everything else that goes on, he's just like competent, but also like gets in over his head a fair amount. Like even during this couple of episodes, like Gene just has so many just like, oh shit moments, and like
not only that, I would qualify him if we really had to put like a class analysis. It's like he is the true rogue type. He's good at dodging. He's spry. He's quick. He's got charisma. Apparently, he's done the other dump stat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like I just really like the way that the show paints him as like almost like a realistic protagonist. Just like, no, he's very talented, but like he still takes hits. He still gets by on luck sometimes. He still gets in over his head. Like this is a in terms of like just like the power level of a protagonist. I feel like he's a very like realistic and engaging one. I know we said we're saving the character analyses for later, but like
he
this
has a lot of interesting drive. Yes,
that's the hook there. It's like you see this character. It's like, oh, this is more believable than, or at least relatable than, I know kung fu. I'm the best fighter that ever was. Like no, I'm gonna get hurt, but it's gonna be a good time.
Yeah,
I'll preface it with interesting protagonist.
Yeah, for being like, oh, our main character is the most talented dude in the galaxy. Like, it's a very realistic take on that, which is it's just nice to see. You don't see that almost ever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons. Again, that when I first saw this in the Midnight Run, I was like, this is far more interesting than anything else I've seen in a long time.
I had forgotten how many cool girls there are in this show.
Right?
Cool girls all the way down.
Well, let's be honest. The muscle in this show is well, we meet one by the third and fourth episode that sticks around. You know,
Mhm.
and Hilda. We start with Hilda,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and then eventually we get to
We will actually move on to episode 2.
and yeah, it's just great female characters.
So episode 2 introduces us to the reason why Hilda wanted this container. Doesn't exactly explain why, but at least gives some of the picture.
What's in the box, Bob?
A little girl. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I don't know her age. I don't know if it's... I'm led to believe with this theory of either 11 or 20. She's probably closer to 11 than 20.
Let's be
okay.
honest. She's probably 18.
So-
Which makes the show really weird.
She's 18.
built-
I'm guaranteeing it.
She's built to have an 18-year-old's body.
Oh no.
She's like 2.
Yeah, she's like fully. Well, is she 2 or is she the second version and she was just born out of that box?
I feel like you have given me information I don't know.
Let me tell you, with how this show goes, like towards the end of the series, I fully believe this is like version 3.0.
Anyway, so the ships or the box is slowly opening up. And I say slowly because I swear it's one of those distorted time visuals of her being reawakened from suspended animation.
Yeah, it's like
So
100 minutes or 600
360
seconds, so it's like 10
when I
minutes.
remember. And then 30 seconds later, 300. Then 2 minutes later, 240. Make up your mind.
Hey,
but-
this ain't 24. They can skip ahead a little bit.
Yeah.
So Jean and Hilda are holding off the pirates while Jim stays with who we eventually learn her name is Melfina,
hmm
hmm
which is actually a kind of a cool name.
And I do appreciate that, like, Hilda respects Melfina and is just like, no, she has a name. It's Melfina. She didn't give her that name. She's like, no, that's what her name is. She comes with that name. Respect it.
And in an interesting twist that I actually didn't expect, Hilda and Jim go off to get the ship while Jean stays with Melfina to protect her. I don't know why, but I expected it to be the other way. Or Jean and Hilda to go off.
It
was nice.
I mean, it's a trope for a reason.
And then
They-
everybody goes to space.
Yes. And then
You
we
ready?
get
I'm
introduced
gonna-
to the fact that Jean hasn't been to space since we've seen him in the whole grapple battle.
The incident.
Well,
I'm sure it's just passing trauma.
that cold open grapple battle was like flash forward when we come back from the eye catch and we see his like traumatic incident in space that makes him so like traumatized about it.
And-
for reference, I don't think this part I think is also said later in the show, but that is when he was 15. So he from 5 years he goes from that little baby child to
Hit his growth spurt, huh?
As one does in anime. I would also
He
like to
took his
interject
vitamins.
real quick. Yeah. I would like to interject real quick because what I show here are 4 protagonist characters in order of age, including age. Jim, 12. Melfina, 17.8 years old, which is just a very interesting kind of...
I would actually have put her at
Description?
18.2.
Yeah, I was saying, just call her 18. Please, for the love of God, call her 18. She is by the end of the series, and I mean, that's anime for you. Jean, 20, and Hilda, about how old do you think Hilda is?
27.
I'm going with 28. $1.
Okay.
$1, Bob.
So what's your $1, Bob? I want to know what your $1 is.
28 was what my initial thought was.
Nick is the closest, but still went over. Hilda is a very spry 21 years old, because again, if you're in
He
anime,
needs to
if you're
lay off the
20,
smoking and
apparently
drinking, that poor lady.
Oh my god.
Listen, Hilda was very important to a young a young me, and that's all I'm gonna say.
A lot of young people, I'm sure.
It's
Yeah.
losing an eye adds 7 years.
I
There
mean,
we
you're
are.
not wrong. I was like, she's gotta be like 25, right? It's like, oh, well,
We
I
got
guess I
plenty
lost
of
that
time.
C note.
We got
Also,
plenty of time to get used to her. It's fine.
I love how it happens in the middle of an action scene, so everyone always just brushes past it. But like Rachel Sweet has 2 working eyes, and then she just pulls the mask off and still has the blindfold on underneath, covering her one eye.
Actually, Nick, that's in my notes to accompany with the rest of the note. I wondered if that has to do with the 2 working L's in Rachel.
Oh, she's got 2 left eyes.
I'm assuming so. I really want there to be like just some kind of like she has 2 L's, so she has clearly 2 left eyes, 2 left feet. And, oh, to be fair, she is missing a left arm.
Oh yeah.
Who knows what else she's missing?
Sadly, the science person in me is trying to figure out how they're moving around in 0G gravity and still being able to push off through flight.
Don't worry about it. But anyway, so we're at the shootout at the hay barn.
We're there in space.
Yes, because Hilda and
Gene's
Jim come
about
back with the dropship, and they pick them up, and they all go to space, pursued by
And they use
pirates.
their super... Oh, yes, after the shootout where, of all people, Jim is the shooter because Gene can't do anything but almost throw up constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Next to Melfina.
He has the space sick, much like the seasick.
They get to a point where they can... Oh, I don't remember the name of their words for going faster than light. But it's like magic
Sub-ether
proof?
drive.
Yes, magic proof. Because they need to get to Blue Heaven. Green Heaven was busy that day.
That's the coolest name for a space station. Shut up.
I'm trying to remember. Wasn't there a Blue Heaven like in Cowboy Bebop or something? There's another Blue Heaven. I can never remember. Or am I thinking of like an F-Zero track?
God, you might be.
I mean, it sounds like a...
Hold on. I'm going to... Google, help me.
Cowboy Bebop has that song called Blue.
Oh, right. There's an anime actually not anime, just a manga called Blue Heaven. But I'm not seeing any other reference Blue Heaven.
All right, maybe it just sounds like something cool.
Well, internet not perfect.
I did want to mention, by the time they sort of jump into sub-ether drive using the Munchausen drive, if we're just going to throw all the techno battle in, they have killed one of the pirates pursuing them already.
Captain Meat Cleaver.
Yeah. And that's another thing that I appreciate about the show. Like when we see these characters at the front, we're like, oh, they're all like got some pretty like unique designs. They must be like, pretty characters that are going to stick around for a while and be like, recurring characters. Just like, no.
Did you like them?
No, these are disposables. Wait till you see the real stick-arounds.
Yeah, that's...
Also, can we talk about Captain Meat Cleaver's ride?
Yes. Oh, because they have the
magic.
they have the like putty based Foot Clan
assassins.
Yeah, Mook ninjas that are just like, yeah, no, these guys they can transform into vehicles and stuff. It's fine.
Man, let me tell you, those yoga classes paid off. Flexible AF.
Listen, if I need to be subordinate to a mob boss who can turn me into a flying surfboard at any time he wants, I better be getting like, I better be getting dental for a position like that.
Mm-hmm. Let me tell you, Tau Magic was, once I got hooked in this when I was younger, that was the other selling point. I'm like, oh, well then. Mm-hmm. It's like, again, at that age in my life, I'm like, I haven't seen anything like this in fiction before except The Force. This is so cool.
Yeah, I really love like studying magic systems in different stories and stuff. But my particular favorite aspect of this one is the fact that they have the caster guns, which like you put a spell in a bullet and that allows non-magic users to use that spell. And I just think that's a fucking great idea.
It is
I
absolutely.
do love that. I will. We are coming back to the caster guns later because I'm going to spoil one detail for Bob later. It's not like the biggest of spoiler, but it's just one of those logical ends.
So we see everyone magic poof, back in and go to the Blue Heaven. And I will admit, I do like the whole approach where her spaceship talks to her and call out to the semi-sentient spaceship.
Mhm.
Horus?
Horus.
The
That's
name of the
so
ship
weird.
and the AI.
Yeah. I keep thinking of Horus and Jasper, but neither here nor there.
Yeah.
And it asks,
I thought the ship itself had a different name and Horus was just the AI. If it does, they only say it
Nope.
like. Doesn't the in the mechanic that they meet when they get to Blue Heaven, doesn't he refer to the ship by a different name than Horus?
I don't believe so. I'm looking at the wiki right now because I was trying to determine this earlier. It's like, isn't it? It's Horus is the enormous. Hold on, sorry. Pop-ups are getting in the way of me reading this now. Thanks. If you want to cut that out, I'll start over. So, Horus is the enormous spaceship belonging to the infamous outlaw, Hot Ice Hilda. It's also the name of the AI. So it's kind of like, I like the idea of it's a semi-sentient ship, so therefore it's not just its name, it's its name.
Yeah. Okay.
the Horus lands after picking, Dock 8, the luckiest of docks. And we get introduced to a Corbinite.
Yep.
Correct.
Named
A little-
Swanzo.
Yes. So marbled people are a thing, and this one happens to be.
Well, he's
Like
like the
purple?
Volus. He's like the Volus in Mass Effect. Like they have to wear suits because they can't breathe the air the same way we do. Because I think they're like frog like, aren't they, or something?
They're very small, actually. If in the
Amphibian?
next episode after our cutoff for this podcast, they
we
actually
actually see
show
what they
you
look
what
like?
swans will look like. Yeah.
Yeah, we get like an
Essentially-
inside view inside his little bubble there, and he's just like, "Oh, you just like hanging out in your reading pit, your conversation pit of exosuit. All right, cool."
If you remember the original Men in Black, it's kind of like that with a little guy inside the face.
It's nice that they have this guy who's not. I don't know. In the episodes we watched, he seemed more protagonist, almost like a good friend who didn't make the cut to theme song status.
Bobby's Quark.
He's what?
He's Quark.
He is pork. So they land. He gives or I don't know. Is there money in this universe? Because he's like, sure, I'll
Uh-huh.
repair it, whatever.
There is.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right. No, there is.
It's
Juan.
called Wong. Yeah.
Oh, Wong. Because there's 150 Wong. What's going to be their initial repair or whatever.
Which is like, I think that is the smallest amount of Wong that we ever hear mentioned in the show.
Comes up a little bit later when we meet someone else who really likes Jean.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, that reminds me. Oh, no, I'll wait till episode 4. Anyway, they split up yet again because that's really what the Scooby Gang seems to like to do. Dean and Hilda go to the bar because Hilda needs to meet up with a contact. And Jim and Melfina go shopping.
Yay.
And I appreciate Jim because, yes, he is the 11-year-old kid. But outside of making random jokes here and there, mostly feeling like they're in episode 1, he really doesn't over-sexualize anyone he's around.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So we can have beats and jumps with him that's not really affecting, I don't know, the taste level of the show.
Yeah.
Like later on, it's Jim and Melfina who head to the hotel first, find out that there's 2 rooms and it's set up where Jean and Hilda would share a room, and Jim and Melfina would share a room.
I love Jim. He's like my favorite male character in the show, pretty much because he is just like, what if Tails was a little more mature?
Yeah.
He's even like yellow and red color coded like Tails. But yeah, like I think mainly he just like he gets worse when Jean is around, and I'm sure part of that is just like, sometimes you have that friend that you hang out with who brings out like the most fun worst in you. But I think it's also because just like, because they have like a business relationship as much as they just have like a lifestyle relationship. Like he gets on his nerves. Like we see that a lot. I think also in the episode right after the cutoff. Man, there's a lot of good episodes in this show. Like I can remember stuff that happens through this show all throughout the series. But yeah, like there are a lot of scenes of like, we get a little bit in the earlier scene, the morning that Rachel calls, where it's just like, hey, well, you gonna get up and get to that job? And Jim's already up and making breakfast, and it's just like, oh yeah, you're like the adult of this duo, even though you're not the muscle. It's just like you're the one who's like always got to drag Jean around to get the work done.
And that's kind of explained here with the getting to the hotel, with him complaining that this isn't an appropriate time for Jean to try to be getting in bed with Hilda.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, try.
There's a cute scene of Jim and Melfina in the bed, where this is not thanks to you guys earlier on, makes more sense, but Melfina just being like, oh, that is my bed? Yes. Am I sharing a bed with you? And he freaks out.
Oh, she's so moe. Oh, do we get to teach about moe now? Is this a good opportunity?
Nick, I will let you teach him about the moe.
Oh, moe. No.
That sounds Hawaiian.
Oh.
We will say that Melfina can also be quantified as a cinnamon roll.
That's kind.
What?
So, the sweet, precious cinnamon roll who's too good for this world, and we must protect at all costs so they can grow up good and strong. Cinnamon rolls.
Doesn't have a malicious bone in her body.
Moe is that, but a bit grosser. Like, moe, a character is moe if they are usually like a younger, somewhere between like innocent and sheltered, definitely like inexperienced. Like the one that I always think of, and
wide-eyed innocence, almost literally, because they almost always have large eyes.
Yeah, like they are like the innocent little sister kind of character, which is bad because that's usually one of the ones that you have the option to date is the moe character. But like my favorite one was in the PSP game Valkyria Chronicles 2. The moe character in that, the like red flag that she's moe is she walks up and she's just like, oh, what's this? And she picks up the soccer ball that got kicked accidentally over towards her. It's just like, you don't know what soccer is. Okay, you're moe. You don't know what soccer is. It's just like, you know nothing about life. And maybe that's because you were raised as a super secret weapon, or because you are an artificial person who was just born out of a box yesterday. Like, you know nothing about the world. You are so sweet and innocent, and I can teach you everything. That's moe. I believe moe like literally translates to like blue, like flower bud, like not quite in bloom yet to bloom. Mm-hmm. Generally it's gross, but a lot of that comes from like connotation, not specifically from definition. Just like a lot of people want to get to date the moe girl, and that's probably bad, but moe in itself isn't a problem. It's just like cringe-inducingly inexperienced.
Oh, now I feel bad for Jim and her relationship.
No, they're fine. These are sweet cinnamon rolls that deserve to be protected.
I will say, again, like very quickly, Melfina does start like acting like a real person. Like right now she is absolutely moe because she was just born and she doesn't know how a hotel works. But like in like another 3 episodes, she's just like, all right, I'm learning how to cook. I got breakfast ready. Come on, boys, stop playing. Come on in and get dinner. And it's just like, oh, all right. She's like becoming a person and not like a very easy to fetishize character trope. Okay, that's better. That's better.
Yeah. This is not done for fetishization. This is done for, practicality of the situation.
Well, somebody's fetishizing it. Somebody's
Okay,
very
it was
into episode 2
unintentionally
Melfina and not episode 26 Melfina.
The creators did not intentionally fetishize her. They cannot control what the audience does. The audience is unfortunately the audience.
That's fair.
So we skip over to and Hilda. They're at what would appear to be an adult establishment. Which I don't mind. But they're accosted by McCoy, right?
Yep. See.
And a couple of hooligans who seem to have an issue with Hilda because she's pretty cool and they aren't. And they're jealous about that. And also because Hilda seems to have a voice that carries. So they overhear her talking about that she wants to go get something, and they're like, well, we want to join in too. And it's at this point we're introduced to what an outlaw is. So there's 3 different factions. There's the government, there's the pirates, and then there's the outlaws. I must confess, I kind of blur the line at outlaw and pirate, but I get where they're coming from because it's more of like a renegade. The pirates are large groups, whereas the outlaws just work for themselves.
Yeah, when
in
they...
the lore... Oh, God.
I was going to say, I think when they say pirate, they mean it more like... Especially because a lot of it, they mean specifically like the K pirates, so there's some sort of like... Probably a lineage from like, Chinese triads, like more like mafia than like, privateers.
They're the organized crime.
Yeah,
they're
a crime empire, not just a bunch of brigands.
There is a whole cold open historical note on that one as well. But yes, it's essentially they are an organization, a criminal organization that has become its own actual power, and kind of in lieu with another government that I can't remember if it's explicitly said, but is definitely implicitly stated, originated from or has ties to historically Chinese criminal sects and corporations.
Which, again, is common in Japanese media.
True.
To have China being, the bad guys.
In, like, every Yakuza game, the Yakuza series, there's, like, one side mission in the middle of the game where you have to be like, oh, no, there's this Chinese mafia tie-in we gotta go deal with. I do like that, like, that melt into so much of the rest of the show, like, so much I'm pretty sure a lot of the like UI elements that we see in the show, and even the fact that the currency is Wong, is just like, it seems like China was sort of like the cultural winner during the space expansion time.
So the asteroid containing the Dragonite, which is what allows spacecraft to travel faster than light,
the
original
unobtainium.
the original asteroid crashed specifically in northern China.
Oh, right, that's what it was.
Okay, I never knew that specific. Okay, that yeah. Like this is a show where, like, I think this is a good example of a show that has a lore Bible behind it that is like explains why so many of the little details are the way that they are, but also doesn't go out of its way to make sure that everything gets explained to the audience. Like, yeah, pretty much every episode does have exposition on the top of it, but like it's kind of like very small and it's enough to understand the world, but it's definitely not like exhaustively explaining every little reason inside the universe. But it's cool. Like that, I think in a lot of shows that goes a long way to making a show feel like have that lived in feeling and make everything feel logical, even when you just see stuff in passing.
Oh, absolutely. There is an episode that is much later on that I had, depending on what we discussed for our watch, I was debating on if I wanted to push hard for it, and I'm looking up the episode specifically right now, but it's they essentially go to a location, I'm trying not to spoil too much, that leads to some implications of there's something kind of eldritch maybe going on out there, or cosmic level, but it's never explained further. it's never really delved into, but it's so good because it kind of whets the appetite. It's like, I want to know more about this world. Grave of the Dragon, that's the one.
There's also while we're just on the on the talk of the universe, like there is also a later episode where basically the crew of the Outlaw Star has to team up with this like private security firm called Angel Links.
Mm-hmm.
And it was basically a backdoor pilot that led to a spin-off series called Angel Links, which is a show about that cast of characters, but it all takes place in the Outlaw Star universe. So it's I have not seen that. I really want to see that, but like it's kind of cool that like we had these hints of like the extended Outlaw Star universe. The Steven Outlaw universe. I'm making this joke wrong. But like, yeah, that but yeah, it goes to the point. Like they weren't just like writing a show with some weird, like kind of like middle school cool kind of stuff. When you look at like, oh, what if the spaceships had arms and wrestled? It's like, I would have drawn that in my middle school notebook margins, but like they were building a universe here, and they were doing a pretty good job of it. Honestly,
listen, I'm going to say this. This is my most controversial take, I think. The Outlaw Star is cooler than the Millennium Falcon because it has arms and can punch. And hold guns and axes. There, I said it.
And you pilot it by being naked.
I mean, navigate it, I think?
Yeah, you navigate it because there's a pilot, and that's just like...
Okay.
We'll get there when we get there.
Okay,
we aren't there yet.
Hang on, does Chewbacca count as naked?
I mean, does your pet cat count as naked?
Yes.
There's your answer.
Okay. So on that
that
tier, the Millennium Falcon and the Outlaw Star are equivalent. Okay, you know what? We're learning things today.
But on the Falcon, you don't have to get into essentially a giant, I don't know, tank.
Jar.
Yeah, get in there and connect with the ship, and
it
removes your clothes, and yeah, you're in a. Oh my god, it is. You pop the top, she comes out. But also she comes back out with her clothes that she went in with, but mysteriously disappeared.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, you couldn't do that on Millennium Falcon. It already smells like wet dog. You want to make that 1,000,000 times worse?
I mean, they did. They gave it porgs.
Oh God. Okay, where were we?
Anyway,
so Jean and Hilda leave the bar and the McCoys after she tases them.
The taser. Yeah. That's awesome. I love that part that she just kicks butt. And I forget to mention that the reason why Jean doesn't shoot them is you aren't allowed to shoot in
Blue no
Heaven.
guns allowed.
Kind of puts them at a handicap. Swanzo does a very good job of explaining why.
But very quickly too, like even when there is exposition, it always moves along really quick, which is impressive.
Yeah, it always makes sense where it's at.
I have so much to talk about with this series, which is weird for me. Anyway, Jean and Hilda, we assume, retire to the hotel, but we don't really know because we cut from them tasing and leaving to the bad guys. They're sneaking into the hotel. They are upset with Hilda and Jean. They sneak into their room. There's 2 bodies under the blanket. They shoot. And guess what? They weren't there.
Wait, no.
Because they were hiding behind the door. And judo chopped them to knock them unconscious, which, with a job, I couldn't do that. They'd be like, ow, a breeze hit me. They're all proud of themselves because they knocked these people out and got an explanation. Who did this? Who put you to this? And it was McCoy? Right? It was the McCoy brothers?
McDougal.
There's 2. Yeah, there's 2 mechs, and it's very confusing.
Yeah.
You would do 2 mechs is beyond me. And they're like, oh no, it's the McDougal brothers. And they're concerned for Melfina, so they go out to the hallway, and they run into a sphere tank. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
To be continued.
More of Dr. Robotnik's evil machinations.
Pretty much. Old Man Robotnik. I really need to find a way to pull off that mustache. I just gotta find 2 brooms to glue to the side of my face.
Hilda continues to be awesome.
Yes, she is
And how?
awesome. Like, she don't need no man. It's just the way she comes across.
She don't need no gun. She's just
Also-
got that taser.
As a note, her voice actress in English
I was gonna
is
get to this.
Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, who is amazing and who I know primarily actually from Critical Role because she works with them a lot. But she's also married to Steve Blum. She was the voice of Julia on Cowboy Bebop, but also most notably Makoto Kusanagi in Ghost in the Shell standalone complex. She's very cool,
Mhm.
and I like her a lot.
Listen, if she shows up, I'm watching it. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Man, okay, so this is like exactly in the Cowboy Bebop era. So it
Yeah.
suffers from there's only ever like 6 voice actors during a given decade.
Mhm.
It's the same. Yeah, it's the analog I've heard about British actors. There's like 30 people, and they're in everything
Yeah.
Mhm.
all the time.
I
Wait,
like
okay.
that the scene when she pulls out her taser, and then puts it away again. Like notably, she's wearing like skin tight sports bra and bike shorts. So like, where does it go?
Okay, except that
There's
sports bra.
pockets on the inside.
That sports bra pisses me off so much.
Uh-huh.
Go on.
Well, because the shoulder straps are drawn like wrinkled and like loose, like they're not pulled taut. So it's like,
Mhm.
what is going on here?
But then also
She's
it has the boob pocket syndrome
Yes.
going on.
Right. Let me tell you, when I first got my hands way long ago on the
On a wrinkly bra?
VHSs, I really
I was gonna say when you first got your hands, you didn't have hands.
I really expected that to be part of the censorship way back in the day when I had
Yeah.
the VHS for this, because I'm like, oh, there's no way they just draw it like, oh, that's
No, she's wearing
Huh.
clothes, so it counts.
yeah.
Hmm.
And a thing that happens later implies like, oh, is what led me to believe later in the series. It's like, oh, okay, you wore your workout clothes to bed? Okay.
Yeah, they're like very 80s workout clothes.
Mm-hmm.
My
Also,
curiosity is
Joe, to satisfy your mind, we did ask what parts of Hilda were also missing. She might literally have a back compartment for.
That's
taser.
true.
Oh yeah.
That's true. I didn't think of that.
She's more machine now than woman.
then that severs my question of whether her and Jean hooked up or not.
Okay, so in the anime, they specifically leave it ambiguous. In the manga, it's they did.
Okay.
Huh.
That's
They're
entirely
wearing their
accurate
bedtime
according to the
clothes.
show details. According to the show details, the flashback that Jean has, that I was kind of ambiguously referring to later on, at the end of the series, that wasn't like a thing in his head. That was actually a conversation they had. So he
Oh.
they did have sex together, which is why I was like, so you put on your gym clothes afterwards. That's a
Which I
choice you made.
appreciate because you can tell that they didn't change their relationship. It was just a thing that they did.
Yeah, it was definitely something on the job.
I mean, I will say, like, even though it only spans these 4 episodes, like, the tenor of the relationship between, you know, the 4 of them all together, I guess except for Jean and Jim, but like, if you count Jean and Jim as one, then like the relationship between everybody really does like evolve pretty quickly and in like a kind of realistic way. Like you kind of see trust go as they all kind of realize like, oh, we're getting deeper and deeper into this. We just gotta go all in with these folks. We're a crew now. Uh-oh.
I'm genuinely curious about the alternate reality where Hilda didn't die in the series and it kind of came on. I want to see what that relationship would have evolved into. I'm just curious.
Spoiler alert!
Yes, spoilers, Bob.
Okay, so episode 2 ends with this probably some sort of like worker drone equipment ball thing with arms coming through the window at them.
Yeah, some sort of
How rude.
manipulator.
Hotel is going to be paying for a lot.
And then we get to episode 3.
And it picks up right where it left off, which makes sense.
With Gene and paintball bullets that you can just load into a regular 22 caliber revolver.
That he conveniently had with him. I guess he just keeps bullets for every occasion on himself.
Well, I mean, with the casters, they're used to buying specialty ammo.
It's like Hilda says, he's a real tricky guy.
Yeah, he definitely seems like he's kind of a, not like a pack rat, but like he'll just kind of pick up whatever he can get his hands on and then just use what he has.
That's why he keeps Jim around, because he carries a bag of tricks. Like when we sort of skip through it in episode 1, but when they're going to the barn where Melfina is and they're having the fight out the back of the car, and Gene's just like, all right, I'll just shoot you with this revolver. Oh, that didn't work. Let me just shoot you with this over-the-shoulder rocket launcher. Like, all right, just got that out of nowhere.
I was going to come back to this. Like, yes, car has armory.
Uh-huh.
I want that car.
It's so good. It's like a hover car, but also a reverse trike. It's almost got like some...
It's a space hot rod.
It's got like some, the Prowler. Hey, remember the Prowler?
Yes.
It's got kind of like future Prowler vibes with one single back seat. I love that.
Yes, that is a car you are not meant to drive. That's a car you're meant to be driven in.
I guess, yeah. It's a one-child family kind of sedan.
I want it.
Anyway, were we episode 3?
Oh, yes. So Gene shoots his paintball gun, blocks out the whatever port that, the circle can see through, and he's all proud of himself for stopping Ordman, and Ordman pops out to yell at him. Hilda has to show off once again how cool she is.
I love it.
Sneaking over there and knocking him out.
He pops his head out of the top, and his head is the only part that fits through that little hole at the top.
Uh-huh.
I love that kind of engineering.
Yeah, like he goes to get out, and he's like, "Oh wait, this is not gonna work." He like goes back in, and then out the back.
Like that tells me this is definitely like something used for like construction or heavy lifting. And it's meant to have that so you can pop and say, "Hey, I said, what do you need over there?" Okay, and then you're meant to actually get out of it when you need to get out.
Yeah, like that lived-in feeling, like everything has a. I think we already passed it, but like this is right when they first landed at Blue Heaven. I was just thinking about like there is a point in this show where like there is no music playing, there is no dialogue. We are just watching the ship like come up to the dock and get gripped by the arms, and like. Part of this goes to what I was saying about like the show having, a lore Bible behind it, but like there is a lot of time just spent just like watching the routine of all of the, cool stylized technology. Like there is so much discussion across this series about the cost of ammunition.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow, yeah. Much later on, but yes, oh my god.
Yeah. And like It's cool because like they like to do this stuff with technobabble, but most of the time they're just talking about it in very relatable terms. Just like, hey man, we got to spend so much money on like, repairs and parts, and you scrap this thing in the last fight, so that's another 500 won, and just like.
And they definitely set that up in that first episode when it was showing Gene and Jim in their shop and like how they each kind of approach that business.
Yes.
And like Jim is definitely the one keeping track of all the numbers.
Jim knows what the numbers are. Gene just know he has a week until he can't go drinking anymore.
What do the numbers mean, Jim? The numbers. You gotta put the numbers into the computer.
And if they go red, you're in trouble. If they stay black, you're okay. Which part were we at?
We're good.
So we were just wrapping up he got out of the bubble.
Boulder fight where Hilda knocks him out, and they're like, okay, time to move on. Hilda is going to take them to the next location of the next piece of something that they need. without really saying what it is. And she does that a lot with how she speaks to Jean, as far as not giving full answers, which he calls her out every single time that happens. They go to the port and say Dock 8, say goodbye to Little Pillbug Man, who you said is a frog.
Swanzo.
Yeah. They get on the ship, and they head out. And after heading out, all of a sudden they're being followed by Old Man Robotnik and his little daughter.
Well, we're a little ahead.
Okay,
creepy.
we don't really see. We just know that they're being followed by the pirates.
Right.
Well,
they're dodging and weaving.
Like, first they're being followed by the same dorks who attacked them in the middle of the night, but now
the McCoys don't learn.
Now they have these little. I love the one-armed grappler ships. It just looks so juicy. But like, yeah, and then the pirates show up and are like, "Hey, you shouldn't mess with us." And then we run into the Kataro Empire.
Yes. So explain to me how Cat Cyclops got cloned a million times and just speak with the same voice.
Clearly that's some like tech visor with a mono sensor at the front. I don't know.
Nope. That is Cat Cyclops right there. James Marsden himself.
That's
Come on there and said,
"This is the Cat Himbo people."
Wearing the pink spandex like they're ready to fight in the Gundam tournament.
Oh my god.
At least they all agree all the time if you are wearing that outfit. You've got the pilot techs.
It's the uniform.
Who will argue. And so I just pulled up the wiki myself to remember that's the Kataro. And you're going to judge me a lot. I thought when they first introduced her, and it's okay to judge me, I thought her name was Asian Clan.
Yep.
So I was like, why are we calling out a particular subsect of humanity? But no, it's
Master
Asia Clan. And she is... I feel like I will get some slack for this.
Mm-hmm.
She's annoying.
Yes,
So...
that is the character type. Mm-hmm. This is a character type that will pop up in anime a lot. Is you have the annoying one.
The character
the whole screechy voice and the demandingness.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly that. Like, the amount of people, like, when this character pops up and then somebody comes to me and says, I had to stop watching the dub because I just couldn't handle her voice.
It reminds me of Bulma. Would that be apropos?
I mean, in some respects, for the attitude.
Early on.
Yeah. The kind of... the Hime, the princess, in a sense.
She's a real Excel saga, if you know what I'm saying.
Ow!
Yes.
You're not wrong.
Excel saga. That's a larger size than the large saga.
Right.
So I was watching these in the Japanese, and I just really loved how, since she's a cat person, instead of saying nani for what, she says nya ni, because nya is the sound cats make in Japan. And it's amazing, and I love it.
I'm so happy about that.
So the horse is flying straight at her very giant ship.
It's got a waterfall in it.
The Ortohone?
That they are not going to move the Kali or Kataro. Need to move.
Kataro, yeah.
And
base himbos.
And I don't think Aisha would have given up. But the pilots were like, screw this, homegirl.
To your point, Bob, my notes actually say, Hilda plays Space Chicken with Asian Clan.
No, I gotta... Hang on, I gotta go to Photoshop. I gotta make Aisha Clan real quick. Quick, get me some cat ears to Photoshop on. Oh my god.
Hilda plays Space Chicken with Aisha.
And let's spell Aisha. Is it Aisha?
Aisha.
Nope, she's Aisha. and she's gonna do what she wants. She don't care what anyone else says. Aisha isn't gonna move, but her drivers are like already moving, which kind of leads to that she's not a very good boss. She's just a loud boss.
Yeah.
They will later go on to essentially say nepotism.
Yeah, there's a whole Bo Billingsley intro about it, about how she got her position.
And the horse is able to get by and get out of the asteroid and magic poof, go to where they need to go. However, the pirates aren't so lucky. They're like, maybe not when it comes to the Control because they're a warrior race. Which I don't even believe because they have a bunch of weird people that just say the same thing over and over.
No, they'll fuck you up.
I'll say die, 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 or something. Like all as one.
Like,
like I said, space himbos.
Shoot, 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 shoot. You aren't supposed to shoot in here. Shoot, shoot, shoot. Oh my goodness.
They're just they're all big arena sports fans. They always get into the crowd chants.
As demonstrated later, they're also big into MMA.
Yeah. Oh man, what a I just finished rewatching this show. I might have to do it again. There's some
Bob,
highlights.
would you like me to? I'm gonna make your day. You've heard Aisha Clan's voice actress before.
Sure.
In the X-Men from '92.
Ooh.
She also voiced Rogue.
What?
Oh wow.
Go back and listen to the effort noises, like when she screams. But I also have it here in front of me.
As nervous as a cat with a long tail in a room full of rocking chairs.
Literally.
Anyway, Aisha kind of gets demoted.
Oh, we're sticking with that, huh?
That's how it's spelt.
No, I'm loving it. Go ahead.
She gets demoted because she did a lot of no-nos, and no one on the ship is really backing her up, as far as I can see at this point. She's forced to stay on Blue Heaven, which is weird. I thought that was supposed to be the Outlaw location, but really anyone can go there.
It's a free town.
Freeport.
Yeah.
And
they're gonna leave her there to for information gathering.
To think about her life choices.
Like, just look for information about the galactic ley line, whatever that is. Don't worry about it yet.
Which is true. It's not even a good explanation when they try to explain it in the next episode.
It's the way they explain it for like 6/7 of this show is like basically the way I've always understood the One Piece in One Piece. It's just like, yeah, it turns out there's a giant treasure out there that like every pirate in the galaxy is looking for, and we're gonna get it first.
We don't know what it is. We don't know what it looks like. We don't know how to get it, but we're gonna.
That's honestly like this is another one of those ones where like the main MacGuffin of the show stays unexplained for so long, but like at least all of the stuff happening in the meantime really doesn't care about what it is either. We're just like watching some fun like it's just like every time the story of the week ends, it's just like, okay, and now we go back to looking for the thing. Yep, all right, moving on. Just like Gene and Jim at the end of the show, you know, hitchhiking along the road as the theme from the old Hulk show plays.
I was just about to say it's the Holy Grail. Is it a cup? Is it something more? We don't know. But we know we're going on a crusade, and we're gonna get it.
Going to get it before anyone else gets it, because those guys pissed us off, and so we're gonna piss them off by getting the thing first. So it's a whole spite-based economy out in space.
In reality, that was the end of the episode, though. Is that magical poof gone? That girl demoted.
Yeah.
No, because the horse arrives at the rendezvous point that Hilda was supposed to meet her contacts at.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's right, and they're not doing good.
They killed a leprechaun.
they killed the leprechaun.
Which I would have felt worse for, except I had no emotional investment.
I know, you just kind of get the, like, companion
no.
type sympathy. It's like, oh no, my friends got killed, so my friend is upset, so I feel bad about that part.
It's
There,
that
there.
moment of, this might be a red flag. Continue ahead. I also want to say, because we will come to it in the next episode, but essentially, Hilda, and they're very ambiguous as to how, but it clearly didn't turn on what we're going to see in the next episode, but got it into an asteroid in the orbit of a sun. And I don't care how she did it, but again, she's so cool.
Uh-huh.
Speaking
I
of,
love it.
Yeah, so they're flying by the debris. They find the pirates have blown up the ships.
Mhm.
So there's like a bit of a fight with the pirates, but they escape.
that's what they do.
Well, they think they escape,
Yeah,
but they've been
Oh, yeah, that's right.
marked.
the
yes.
pirates tag them.
Evil old man Robotnik did his spell of, I know where you're going.
Those damn kids and their magic Krylon.
Did it in outer space with his helmet and everything.
Yeah.
The way they cast spells is a little odd.
Can I just his oh wait, no, I think it's more in the next episode, never mind.
Oh, excuse me.
So we switch on to episode 4,
Episode 4.
where the ship is heading to the desert planet area with lots of, resources. It's also where we find out the ship is that Hilda wants.
Yeah,
This ship is the
she
super amazing
stashed
ship.
it there.
It's a ship with the brains of the pirates and the bronze of the military. Or
Yeah.
something to that effect.
Yep.
It's literally, hey, the U.S. government made a warship. Yeah, who built it? The mafia.
Mhm.
Huh. Interesting.
Well, I think it's technically the other way. It's just like, hey, the mafia designed this cool spaceship, and you managed to use the like money and like resources
The money
of
came from,
the cops to build it.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, that is the more accurate, but it's just kind of like that moment of, if you hear something like that, it's like, that's not the way I expected that sentence to end.
Uh-huh.
And I love it. I love the oh yeah, what do you mean governments are influenced by anonymous donations from maybe less than savory characters? What?
Uh-huh. But it also just goes to show that when they said that, there are 3 forces in space, maybe there's actually only 2 forces in space. The cops and the mob working together, and then everyone else.
What? No. Life parody art? No.
That
would mean art parody life, and that just can't be.
No, don't worry about it. Life imitates art, not the other way around.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Okay.
Horus is able to land by flying into the sun, which, Gene complains about because it's getting hot. And they get into the asteroid and they see this ship. Oh no, they leave the Horus on the little Horus, because that's its baby, and flies into the asteroid. And they see this ship that everyone just give eyes to. I'm like, yes, it's like the 5th ship that I've seen. They're all different.
Mm-hmm.
They get in there and the AI talks to them there. Something different than Horus. A little more talkative, a little more knowledgeable. And I do appreciate that Gilliam explains that he is not sentient, because they removed the ability for him to be sentient out of his programming.
Yeah, they were just like, that would cause some like divide by 0 errors, so we're just gonna don't.
Yep, got rid of that altogether. Thanks to Hilda, who changes his programming to accept them as his crew.
Mm-hmm.
And then Horus alerts Hilda, hey, just so you know, the pirates found us, not sure why. And Hilda's like, hey, you guys got this thing ready for takeoff, don't worry, Melfina's got it covered. I'm I'm going to go out there and keep them distracted. You need to get out. Jim and Jean are like, what? Alfina doesn't say anything, which is a little disturbing. She could be like, yeah, just put me in soup and I'm good. And so Hilda goes out there to keep them busy. Jim takes the pilot seat. Oh, Jim takes a side seat and is told not to touch anything, while Jean takes the pilot seat. And Hilda goes into what looks oddly like a submarine port just appeared in the floor.
Mm-hmm.
She climbs in, and suddenly the thing poofs up. And as mentioned, her clothes are no longer there. Not sure where she stored them. I bet you they're just in the bottom of the tank, but because it's covered down there, you can't see them.
So, I'm gonna throw this out here.
Solvable clothes? No, a little bit of a stretch.
No, there's a thing later where we get into she is like Bluetooth connected to the ship while she's in there, and there is a couple of moments of some VR presence stuff where we see people looking like they're Tron, all one color, and they have different clothes or no clothes or butterfly wings or whatever. So I would almost be tempted to say that we're not actually looking at naked her, we're looking at some sort of hologram version of her VR presence being displayed in the goo. Yeah. I don't think there's anything backing that up, but that's the only way I can explain that she comes out with dry clothes. Okay? Give me a break here.
I'm just glad to see the Space Forces had their priorities, making that the visual representation.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole to-do. Oh, go ahead.
No. Spoilers. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Yeah. There's a whole to-do of them getting the ship ready while Hilda's just out there shooting and trying to keep the space pirates away until McDougal brothers show up.
McDougal.
They're like McDouchebags. and they're like, you know what?
Dead and serving more.
They were working with the pirates. Now they took a new contract which says you need to get rid of the thing that the pirates want. So they pull out a rocket the same size as their ship, asking many questions, but neither here nor there.
Uh-huh.
Shoots the rocket at the asteroid, which blows it up pretty well. Hilda's understandably concerned.
I mean, if I had a thermonuclear missile coming at me, I would be too.
Because it puts the asteroid in the sun's gravity well. Yep. Slowly bringing it closer, and Hilda's slowly being pulled in with Horace and
the pirate
Old Man Robotnik and his daughter in their which kind of cool detached piece with the grappling hands is also being pulled in. And everyone wants this ship to be okay. And they're like, we gotta save it. And then it comes blasting out of the side of the asteroid in really cool fashion.
Punches its way out, because it's got arms for punching.
They're long grappling arms. When you see it compared to Old Man Robotnik's.
Yeah.
It's like he has big hands and small arms. Whereas the it has long arms and little hands that somehow break the other one's arms and simultaneously kills Old Man Robotnik, leading to what you had mentioned previously. Don't get too connected to people.
Yeah. I love it it's because they are in the hand, because their plan is they're going to grab the ship and then bust through in the palm of the ship hand in order to breach the hole, and instead it just gets locked by the other hand and it just sort of handshake grip crushes it, and it's just I was standing in that hand and now I'm dead. Oh, it's just weird.
The ship is able to escape the gravity well of the sun. By percentages, 84% cleared, 85% cleared. They realize that they're struggling to save Hilda at the same time. They're gonna grab her in the small ship, Baby Horace, with the hands. That's when Old Man Robotnik's daughter grapples them and keeps her out of the way. So poor Hilda is like, the only chance I have is like this 1 in a million shot, which she nails, grappling to the grappling, and leaves Horace, which made me really sad. I don't know why, but I was touched by that.
Yeah.
The horse didn't care.
Horace goes out like a champ. Horace is just like,
okay.
Horace understands the score.
7's in the chat for Horace.
Oh man, yeah, Horace. Best boy ship.
And so landing this shot, she gets onto the grappling, and is it her daughter or Old Man Robotnik's daughter, or just some sycophant?
Just some other high-ranking pirate.
She's the boss of them all, actually.
She's
of
like,
the ones we've seen so far.
She's all, you can't have this, I will destroy it to no one, and she starts casting like a bubble from Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
And Hilda's like, ain't gonna happen. She says, I think she says goodbye. Yeah. Or not really goodbye, but just her swan song. Bites down on an explosion in her, or explosive in her mouth, and her and the lady blow up.
God, she really said, hey, I might be screwed right now, but I'm gonna make sure you're screwed worse. Kaboom!
She's so damn cool!
She's so cool! Well, she was cool.
Because at that point I realized she's not the samurai in the intro. It made the show more real. It's one thing to kill off what looks like really important villains, to kill off really important heroes or anti-heroes.
Your person who knows the score and what's really going on, your only real source of information. Oh, by the way, dead.
Well, she was our Obi-Wan, so I think we're allowed to lose her.
No.
No, I'm just saying we should get like 7 prequels and also an HBO miniseries about Hot Ice Hilda, starring Pedro Pascal, I guess. Pedro Pascal as the bug in the orb.
At the end of the episode, Jean is like, hey, Gilliam, I'm ready to name the ship because the ship still hadn't had a name. And Gilliam's all ready, and I'm sitting there in anticipation. Oh, it's going to be named after Hilda. Not even thinking, because that's just the type of person I am. They're like, name it Outlaw Star. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Uh-huh. She said the same.
Not Hilda's remembrance.
I mean, it's still
Hilda's sacrifice.
I'm pretty sure it's still like in for Hilda.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a theory. Again, calling back to the night that is inevitably referenced that those two spent together. I am assuming because she started to name the ship earlier, and then pirates happened. I'm assuming she was going to name it that, and she had probably at some point told Jean that. Just because to come up with, I mean, arguably anime, but, and for that matter, fiction in general, to just kind of come up with that name on the spot, I narratively believe that it's like, this is something they discussed already. And this was just kind of honoring that, whatever was mentioned to him. I have nothing to go on that actually supports that. I just choose to believe that.
No, I mean, that makes a certain amount of sense to me. I think I always just got to read that, like, you know, because Jean had, you know, space PTSD or whatever, and like the episode 1 opens with him just like standing on a cliffside watching a ship go off in the middle of the night, and like I was that emo kid in, you know, grade school. I would just stand out there and look at the moon and think of really cool names for things, just hoping one day I might actually do something and be able to use one of those names. Like I could kind of believe that Jean would come up with something cool like that, but like, yeah, honestly, the idea of like, if there is way more to that scene with Hilda in the hotel, then, and like, you know, they were definitely all getting closer to each other. So if she, like, you know, revealed her plans to him and some of her, like, if that's a reflection of her like vibes. I don't know, ideals maybe. It's just like, oh yeah,
Who
Outlaw
she
Star. That is
was.
like, we the audience don't necessarily get it, but that is a very like Hilda thing to name it. I could totally buy that too.
Yeah, she's so cool. She was
She's so
taking
cool.
so soon.
My upon reflection thoughts.
Table.
Yeah, because that's the show. What's up? Where are we at? We got a lot of finishing thoughts to do on this, huh?
Yes.
Wait, I have one more note about this episode.
Okay.
Because it's a personal pet peeve of mine.
Oh.
The old man's spacesuit, he has the bubble helmet, he has nothing on his
Yes.
body, so his hands are just like out in space, and I was like, what is this doing?
Magic.
Space magic.
He's got magic.
They have space magic. Assume space magic is happening.
You can't do the somatic element of your spell if you have astronaut gloves on. Listen, why do you think NASA
That's
has
right.
never sent any wizards up into space?
Makes sense to me.
The logic is right there.
You're an astronaut, Neil.
He got the other letter. He got a letter delivered by a drone.
Fuck.
Okay, final thoughts.
My final thoughts on this show is, and this is a controversial take, I didn't really care for when they would slow down to show in like the details of things, which I know you did like, Nick. For me, it felt jarring. Like we would have exposition and then stop. And then exposition, then stop. For me, my favorite episode of the group was episode 3, where there was a lot more action. And episode 4, when there was action, but even then, when they stopped to stare at this new ship, I get that it was Og, but I don't know.
Yeah, like there's something about like the general pace of the show where it is very fast moving and it doesn't linger on really anything. So there are these moments where like when it is trying to do a scene that is just like, oh, we're taking this all in right now, it does kind of just seem jarring because it is so different than anything else the show ever does.
On the flip side, I can appreciate what they're going for, though. They are saying that this is the universe. This is... Things work for a reason. I joke about the magical poof, but they explain at the beginning of one episode the entire drive that explains the magical poof. This is like a very well thought out area.
Yeah.
I may not be one for the full stop, but I understand why it's there.
You know, to that point, and it was kind of referenced earlier a little bit, I really think this was someone's like high school concept. And what they did, instead of trying to like overthink it and over justify a lot of things, they just said, how can we just smooth off a few edges? And how do we have a story? Because, and that's not an insult by any means. I'm not trying to mean the storytelling. It just feels like someone had this great idea when they were younger, and then they said, okay, I want to do something with this, is I guess what I'm really trying to put it as. And I think that's what makes it good, because it has just enough thought on what mattered to the creator without having to say, let's justify everything.
Yeah, it is. This is the result when you have a good editor on a script,
Yes.
right? Because like, yeah, like that lore Bible is there. There is somebody who didn't just have like an okay idea, but definitely had like a lot of idea, but then had somebody else come along and go like, all right, let's just, pare this down until it is like just the coolest ideas and just what is needed to support them, and not extra stuff that's going to slow us down, not extra stuff that is going to divert from the best parts of it. This is the kind of show where you look at it and it's like, there's nothing really extra. Like, okay, some of those slow parts are a little dry, and I don't know if I would even say that I like those, but I appreciate that those are in there. Like, it is part of, making the world feel like believable, even for being this super stylized sci-fi show that has both space tech and magic, and yet it feels very believable.
Mhm.
But like it is, it just does what it needs to tell the story and get the points across that I want to tell. Like, there's not a version of this that it's better by cutting stuff out of it. That's already been done, and it is just like fantastic as is. They've already done that work to make it better.
Mhm. Go ahead.
No.
I don't recall if it was pre-recording or not, but there was a conversation had about episode 3's cherry conversation.
Yeah.
So, Joe, was that in the like sub?
I think that was the one episode I watched in English. I like to watch like at least one in the other language just to kind of compare the voice tones and stuff. I think so, because that conversation was there in what I watched, but I don't remember.
Okay. Was it just because like I do
I'm
wonder?
trying to check real quick, but it's making me log in again. God damn it.
I do wonder if that was an attempt of like adding some attitude by localization teams, or I wonder if that is like a pretty direct translation of Gene's, sex pestiness. Like I think there's a little bit of an argument that like the censored version that we originally all saw on Toonami, because it cut out some of those like grosser like Gene, being a sex pest, because it censored out a lot of those things. Like, I feel like he was a much more like wholesome character originally, because he still had like the interesting flaws, but he wasn't just like gross sometimes. I'm sorry, I'm kind of taking this. Is this like where you were kind of gonna go bringing this up, or?
A little bit. It's just the whole. I don't know. It was a repeated joke that felt just kind of eye rolling by the end, except for Alfina's statement of, "I'm sorry, you can't perform."
Yeah, like there's almost the nod in there of just like, no, the show is saying this, and all of the characters are like also upset that these things are being said, and then she's kind of there to break that tension. But it's like,
yes,
it's the Mad Hazard problem. It's just like, oh, if you want to point out how gross this is, you're kind of also doing it in the process of it. You could have just not done it.
but it's an adult joke, I guess, as far as kids wouldn't get the reference of, oh, you're going to pop your space cherry.
Ugh.
And
Yeah, it's a terminology even I don't find.
And for that to have been referenced like 4 or 5 times in that hell,
they keep bringing it back.
It could have been a one and done, but Jim keeps referencing it.
It was so they brought that joke back in the next time on for one of the episodes.
So hear me out, except for the next time bit. Could this have been? Because if you think about it, children once they get something they can rag on someone about, they kind of like to hang on to it.
Mm.
Is that? I'm not justifying it, but I just my mind wonders. Is that them showing for as mature as Jim is, he's still a 12-year-old child or 11-year-old child, however old he was supposed to be?
I think that's definitely part of it, because Jim, like I was saying before, like Jim is at his worst around Gene, because like Gene frustrates him the most, and so he's always trying to get his harshest digs in on Gene. But like you could have gotten that across with a different joke.
I don't disagree. Don't get me wrong. I'm not justifying it, but anyway, I just wonder if that might have been their attempt. But even then, it's like, God.
Yeah.
The first time, okay. Second time, third. I mean, after the third, it's like.
Yeah, I don't think they wanted to use that specific joke. I think that is an unfortunate joke they used for that point. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then finally, for me, just to kind of touch on it, is the Good thing that the show did is the beautiful horribleness that Hilda had to die.
Yeah.
It makes the show real. She could have space magicked her way, like she was secretly a wizard all along and appeared in there. Or she could have hung onto the rope or anything, but no. Noble sacrifice for a character that you did get connected to.
And she didn't cry. She didn't wax, pathetic. She's just like, no, I'm going to face this like everything else. What? Punching someone in the face harder.
Yeah, and like thematically it ends up being a thing because like on the one hand the show is about this like it's like, oh, it's the race for the treasure, oh, big adventure, but like it's actually a show that when it remembers to be about high themes, it is kind of about like, hey, what are your that's why I think when the cold open that starts with the boy has a right to dream, like they when Toonami was doing bumpers and promos and stuff, they loved to lean on that and made it kind of iconic of the show and that Toonami run, but also like that theme of just like, what are your dreams, what is it that motivates you, what are you striving for, and what cost to your life are you willing to pay to get there. And like I think it losing Hilda like that and like the attitude with which she goes out and her message to Jean at the end is just like all leaning into that. And that's kind of what the show is about. It's just like, what are you going for and what lengths will you go to? And I think that's kind of like a mature approach to that theme, for like a kid's show, I guess.
It's not I heard someone refer to this once when I was discussing this years ago. It was her talking about him being a man. I'm like, no, it's her telling him, I don't care what you believe, just that you believe it.
Yeah.
And I love that. Yeah, it's like, find something that matters to you and just pursue it with your heart. And I love that.
Like, is this actually a good lead into if we want to do like a breakdown on what makes Jean an interesting character?
We can.
Oh, yeah.
I want to just sneak in real quick. The colors in space, my God.
Yeah.
Just all the colors in this show in general are just perfect and work in ways that you don't see in a lot of other shows, especially even of the era, and it's just beautiful. But yes, Jean is interesting because...
Jean is interesting because... Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. To address the earlier point, I just double-checked. The cherry lines are in both the sub and the dub.
Really?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm not terribly surprised, if I'm honest.
All right. In a weird way, that makes me feel better at it because that's not somebody's just like offhanded throwing it in. It's just like, all right, so there was at least like, I may not agree with it, but I guess there was like it is a holdover of original intent at least.
This part was in there. Why? Because it was always there.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for double checking that.
Yes, thank you. Jean Jellybean. I like Jean because he is not the fastest, as shown by with Hilda.
Mm-hmm.
He's not the smartest, as seen by with Jim. Every time he gets on a spaceship, till the last episode when he was pretty much forced into the shooter spot, he sat in the pukey spot the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
He's a protagonist who is not known for having a lot of strengths. I'm assuming that changes over time, but to see this introduction of someone who doesn't start off on top and doesn't have an episode showing how great he is.
Yeah, I mean,
aside of being able to shoot magic bullets.
It's a spaceship show aimed at young adult men, and the main male character is not instantly I'm the best pilot in the universe or whatever. Like,
he's normal.
I mean,
you ready for my second hot take that's going to get me banned from anime in general? Or banned from something. Not from anime. He's a more believable Luke Skywalker.
Huh.
Think about it, yeah. Both have dreams of being somewhere else. For whatever reason, they're not. Insert actual reasons. But then they are thrust into a situation that forces them to literally go to space. Luke handles it. Oh, I'm here, and this is so exciting. And sure, yes, it's very exciting. But has Luke ever been off planet before? and so the believable of this, of someone who grew up and didn't exactly have what appeared to be a supportive upbringing, losing a dad does that to you when you knew them. Um, and his life had a real hard start going into early adulthood. And so he's kind of burdened with the baggage that has come with that, and I'm sure, struggling to get by in life from there to forward. So he's not the happiest person when you cut down to it. I mean, that scene in, we'll assume a hotel, maybe brothel, we don't know. He paid for it.
Sounds
Um,
awful, yeah.
and while she's trying to cozy up to him, and clearly a frequent customer, so at least appears that she has some interest in him passingly. Uh, he's clearly not all really there. His heart's not in it. It's certainly an escape for him, but once he's gone through the motions, it's like, I'm still here. So when he gets out there, it's like, okay, I guess I've got to start living, and I got to commit to the bit.
Well, yeah, you were saying, like, comparing to Luke, the idea of like dreams of being elsewhere, and like I think that's actually kind of the thing, right? Is like when we see Gene in the beginning of this show, like, our first, real introduction to him is the bar scene where Death Rob comes in looking for him. And it's just like, okay, he's a known. We know that he won this last fight that's kind of surprised people, that he was able to take out this tough guy. He is a regular. His name is known. Like, so like, he's not nobody. But also, like, the thing about him is, like, I don't know if I would, at the beginning of the show, like, I don't think to me, Gene is defined as, it's the conversation that, Hilda has with him, right? It's like, are you just going to keep running away? Because he is, he's got like some PTSD going on. Like, he lost his supportive father. Like, oh, the picture of him on the carousel, like, he was close with his dad. They had a really good relationship, and then that was ripped away from him in space by pirates very violently. For something like that, 5 years is still pretty recent for something that upturned your whole damn life. And like, he is someone who, like, is competent, but I don't think he, like, has any dreams that he's looking to pursue, because really all he is spending his time doing is, like, drowning out his fear and, poorly processing trauma, right?
Yeah.
And that's like, because that's the thing, like, he you see him working with Jim. He is competent, but like, he doesn't necessarily have drive. He thinks highly of himself, but like, he's sleeping in. He's just going out to bars and brothels, and just like that.
He's barely treading water.
Yeah, like, it's he's living kind of a slacker lifestyle for somebody who is honestly, like, shows competency in a real way. And I think that's so interesting. And like, so like, just to give it away, like, because I think it's like the next episode anyway, is they're just like, hey, how come you're not throwing up when you're piloting the Outlaw Star? It's just like, I don't know, I feel better in this ship. I don't get that effect. And like, all right, whatever. There's a lot of like reasons you could come up with for that, either through like technical or thematic or whatever. But like, this idea that like Gene continues to be a character who is like, even though he has that talk with Hilda, and he is like forced into space and is sort of forced to stop running away, like, he continues to be a character who has like internal conflicts that are sort of his second biggest challenges, when his biggest challenges are, top tier wizard pirates who are throwing dragons at him. Those are still his biggest challenges. Second biggest is dealing with his internal demons. First is magical external dragon demons.
He has to live long enough to deal with his baggage.
Yeah, and like there's a thing about that too, right? Like, an adventuring lifestyle for him is almost a form of self-medication against his trauma. Like, because like, again, like, maybe this doesn't really count as spoilers, but like, once he recognizes a McDougal's brother ship in that 4th episode, like, even though, yes, they're chasing after the ley line, he's kind of just like doing that, going through the motions. Gene spends a lot of the rest of the series just trying to track down the McDougal brothers to be like, why did you blow up my dad? That is most of Gene's motivation in this show. And like the fact that like that is not the galaxy-wide MacGuffin, that is a very personal stakes for him. And that's like his focus, even though as a crew they're supposedly after the ley line. Like, it's interesting. They are not straightforward motivations for a show like this.
Yeah, it's so good in its own way. It's you get to watch a man learn to heal himself. It's almost like watching the alcoholic or the addict starting to overcome by force of circumstance.
Yeah.
And also, hey, now he's got a found family of people who are, supporting and looking out for each other.
He's got like 3+1 moms. It's great.
Yo, he's got 3+1. Well, he's got 2 big sisters. He would have had 3, but we'll call Hilda a sister.
I was calling her the +1 because she's dead now, but in spirit,
he's got the what's that I want to say? The friend he can cry on the shoulder of, and then his little buddy that has his back and wears a baseball hat.
Mm-hmm. You got the butler of the house in Gilliam. You got
I forgot about Alfred.
Like, we are very close to having like a Family Matters kind of sitcom with this crew.
I'm very excited for an anime that we have on the list later that will deal with found family. I'm really curious if we'll come back to this on that.
I feel like we don't see so much of that found family stuff just because like where we just left it is in the middle of this huge upheaval because the person who was really like Hilda was the captain of the crew up to this point. And like, so like now everything we just said about, Gene, also he is about to like get his first crack at really being the captain. Cause even when it was just Starwind and Hawking, like Jim was running that business,
Now Gene is the leader.
Yeah.
People are looking to him and he has to figure out what Gene Starwind leader looks like.
Yeah, it's just like, and it goes back to the thing about like, here's a guy who spent all of his time, sort of just like drowning his hurts, and now it's just like, hey, you have the ability to go after something. What are you going to go after? How are you going to do it? And what lengths will you go to? And like, it's cool. I feel like this actually plays up sort of the depth of the show. That because it is, most of the time it is just like a fight of the week, silly action anime with like, fighting spaceships. But like these elements are in there.
Oh yeah, especially once we get into the essentially the hierarchy of the K pirates as they become introduced. The very first one he interacts with deals with a kind of thou art not ready, but what does it mean to be an outlaw? What does it mean to be someone on their own, to be in the position you are in?
Yeah.
And are you really prepared for that responsibility?
You know what? Honestly, even just like the recurring bit / exploring the relationship between Hid and Fred Lowe and how he deals with somebody who has that asymmetric relationship to him, even that's kind of interesting. Like this show, like it is an action show, but it is like subwritten as a sort of case study on Gene Starwind personality and motivations. It's cool.
Yeah, it's very well done. It's like once you dissect, as you said, possibly more than the creator intended. But still, it's there and present.
It can be
intentional or otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I love about it. And this one will get me kicked out of anime, I'm sure.
Why are you trying so hard to get kicked out of anime?
No, I'm not trying to get you all. I'm just working on me. And it's one of those. I love Bebop. Let me put this out there. I will never throw shade at Bebop.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of like this a little more than Bebop for that.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. You're allowed.
Yeah. Well, you say that, but the anime at large, Bebop is the holy trinity amongst it, I'm sure. Unless you count seasonal anime, in which case, that's a whole nother discussion. But yeah, I feel like it does the family dynamic a little better. Well, exploration of the found family dynamic, better than Bebop did.
Yeah.
And I feel like it also, Bebop also had an amazingly fleshed out world and made you want to know more. But I feel like Outlaw Star, at least for me, has that appeal of there is absolutely something more eldritch and cosmic going on
Well,
here.
that's because there's magic. Anytime you have magic,
Yeah.
there's like
but the
more
fact that
going
there's no explanation period that I love for that.
I
And
think,
what little explanation you may get by the end of this, still it's like tip of the iceberg, and what it feels like is out there.
I think what you're talking about kind of goes into, why we made our tier list the way that we did, where Bebop is in just good TV tier, and this is where we get into like actual anime, because like they're absolutely comparable in that sense, but like you look at Bebop, and Bebop doesn't have, the just sort of like recurring sex pestiness of a Gene, and that is a very anime thing. Like we don't have Melfina's moe-ness, which like we kind of get hints of that in like 2 episodes with Faye, just because of her like kind of rediscovering the young Faye that she doesn't remember or whatever, but like nothing approaching. Everyone in Cowboy Bebop knows what soccer is. I mean, everyone in Cowboy Bebop calls it football. They're on Jupiter calling it football. Nobody says soccer anymore in that future, Like there's an element of like, I think, I am kind of on the same side that like, if you had me, if I had to like, Desert Island pick between Outlaw and Bebop, I pick Outlaw. But
Yeah,
if you ask me which one I think it is going to be easier to get people hooked on, it's Bebop, because there is less anime nonsense to have to get past with Bebop.
they're both very good for very different reasons.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I appreciate.
Bebop is almost a safer choice. It's a bit more rounded, but there's it's that thing where Outlaw is the one that is like rougher around the edges in a way that gives it a little more like endearing character, beauty and the flaws kind of stuff, maybe.
Yes, it's not perfect, but it's perfect because it's not perfect in its own way.
Yeah, it definitely, you grow to enjoy the flaws inherent.
Mm-hmm. Also, now I'm going to throw in a little trivia. I'm going to steal this from Joe.
How dare.
Hey, Bob. Yeah, I know, right? In 1998, did you know 3 space westerns came out together?
Okay.
One was Outlaw Star.
Yes. Was one Cowboy Bebop?
Uh-huh. Can you guess what the third one was?
Gunsmoke in Space.
You're correct. It was Trigun.
That was going to be my next guess.
And if I remember correctly, they came out, if not the same day, within like weeks of each other.
Hell of a year.
Yeah, what a good year.
I was going to say, 1998 was a great vintage for anime.
It's like the first time I'm going to say I was born in the right era.
I know, right?
For the anime from our lifetimes that we enjoyed. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no. It's like, it's those little details that make life worthwhile.
Hey. Where does the opening go on our list?
Oh, see, I was patiently waiting for this one.
I was saying, I have not just the opening. Can we talk about that ED? That beautiful, melancholic, the ending. Okay, so Bob.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, it stands for ending.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The outro, Bob.
Thank you. Much better.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Can we talk about that though? Because it's such. That was again watching episode 4 back in 2002 in the middle of the night. And I'm like, this is really cool. This is great. And then I hear that ED, and that was the hook. That was the thing, like, oh, there is something truly beautiful and artsy here, and I don't know what it is. 2002-year-old me. And even to this day, I'm like, God, this is just like, not literal, actual, but, I've thrown this around a couple times this episode, perfect ending. I don't think there's an ending I really love more than this one.
So Joe made a very good point previously that different people like different things.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
I very much did not care for the ending credit music. I found it to be, and I had mentioned how I didn't like the jarringness of, the slowdown. Music for myself did not correlate well with the show. Maybe it was because I only watched 4 episodes. I found it, not that the intro, even though I have a different opinion, meshed with the show super well. Outro, not for me. Maybe it's
that's
a different art style. But
I mean, it fit. I guess part of the reason it hit so hard for me too is, again, first time I see this show, I watched someone who, in the first 4 episodes, you would swear is making it through the whole series, bite it. And it's just like, wow, that set a tone.
I know, she literally did it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She bit it, and then she bit it. And this tone kind of does repeat, as Nick stated earlier. This repeats later, and that's part of the reason I think I love it so much, is because it's not like, oh, this resonated with one episode. It's like, no, this kind of resonates with the rest of the series in its own way. It's not the action portion; it's the internal reflection portion. But again, that's me. You are valid for not finding it your taste, Bob, and I completely respect that. You break my heart, but that's fine.
I will say
we're not here for my heart.
This intro does, I think, take over number 1 for me.
Yes!
I am so happy because that is the correct answer.
Oh, this is such a banger. This is
It's so great. I'm humming to myself the song as I'm driving around now.
Is this not the banger that bangered more than banger?
Yes.
This show is one of the first shows that I went out and I got the score for this show.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of the incidental scene background music, I have all of that on my hard drive just because I wanted that intro song so bad. And did we I looked away when the intro starts and it just puts that big go on screen.
Yeah.
Did we see the part? It probably must have been in episode 4. No, I don't think we did see it. So when the normal Outlaw Star boot sequence that we get when they start up the ship, he turns the key, all of the gauges go from down to max, and then they fade away, and all of the gauges just say go with that exact same font.
I know what you're talking about. I think it comes in like 3 or 4 episodes from now.
It's so good.
I remember looking for that at one point during one of my many rewatches of this, because yes, I have. And it struck me as weird. Like, that seems like that's a detail normally you would see inserted early on in a series typically. But I kind of love that it was just later in the series than the first 4 episodes. It's like, oh, that's perfect. But I don't believe the fun part is I don't believe, I can be wrong, that it was during the space race, which would have been probably just default next choice for when that should have occurred.
I don't think it's space race. I think it's when they leave the port on
Blue Heaven.
No, not Blue Heaven. The other one.
Back when they go back to Sentinel 3?
I think they leave Sentinel 3 in a way, or maybe it is at Blue Heaven. It happens. It happens multiple times, and every time it just makes it because they use the same font. It just makes the song kick off in my head again, and I'm just like, yeah, that song whips. Oh, it's so good.
I've been collecting, I know I've talked to you guys a couple times, like collecting certain vinyl. I got the Bebop vinyl, which broke my heart because the real folk blues is on. I need a vinyl for this soundtrack just for this.
In middle school, my friend would burn me CDs of like just random music he thought I'd like. And one CD had a bunch of what I would later discover were anime theme songs, but at the time I only knew them as the cool Japanese songs. And this was one of those songs. So I liked this song before I saw the show.
Oh wow!
And then when the show started, I was like, hey,
so cool.
I know that song.
The thing I heard. That is awesome. I love that.
Let's see here. It's been a while since we recorded. What are other are you gonna keep watching the show?
So it's what, 25 episodes?
26, yeah.
26. So I'm going to give this out of 17.8.
Okay.
A 17.
Yeah.
I will definitely finish this because I like that, and without spoilers, does it end?
But does the show end?
Yes, or is it?
Yes.
Or is it cut off?
It has it.
It ends.
Yes and
like,
yes.
It has an intentional end.
Yes, it has a finish for the story we are telling.
Yes, the main through line of the show reaches an ending of that plot line, and then like the world is definitely like left open, like, oh, the continuing adventures of the Outlaw Star, but it is like that's in denouement. The story resolves. It's great.
Okay.
And to that point, Bob, there was a plan at some point, at least there was a lot of early art suggesting there would be at least an OVA sequel or a sequel series of some kind. But that never came to fruition, for better or for worse.
Yes, this is what I would call the perfect. You state that Bebop would be an easier intro. I feel like this would be because you can eat this in 2 or 3 days if you had the movement, as opposed to Bebop, which is a little more of an investment. A good show, but a little more of an investment.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're the same length. Bebop's only 26, right?
Yeah, but Bebop's definitely a little emoally more heavy.
Yeah,
and
Bebop is a heavier show.
Yeah, each Go on.
What? Oh, after you.
I was just going to say, like, Bebop is definitely more, like, each individual episode is more denser, and I think usually a bit more, like, self-contained. So, like, when an episode ends, you feel like, all right, cool. But like watching these 4 episodes, these could be 1-2 hour movie, and you're just like, you're just like shoveling popcorn in your mouth with these episodes. Just like, let's keep it. I think it is easier to get through this show.
And so many episodes just kind of bleed into the next one. It's kind of like there's a trope of like, oh, okay, I'll just watch 1 episode. Okay, I'll watch 2. I guess there goes my night. I'm watching the whole show. It can easily devolve into that, and it's still worth your time if that happens.
I don't feel myself sitting here thinking, oh, how does this feel for my life? And I wonder how this means at the end of these episodes. It's like, okay, here's a really cool group with real threats, a protagonist who is the most real protagonist that I've encountered so far in these series, and somehow I don't feel like I have to stop. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, you just want to keep going.
Yeah,
but I feel like you could fit this in. I feel satisfied at the end.
So good.
Yeah, what a good show.
It is. I have a friend who, whenever we post this, I'm going to tag her in this because way back when I would show anime on Saturday nights on my Discord, she was like, "Why aren't you showing?" I was like, "Why are you showing Bebop? Why show Outlaw Star first?" I'm like, yeah, I probably should, but I kind of like Nick, you said earlier, I'm choosing the safe option or the safe bet. That's like, this will absolutely attract viewers. This will get people because it is that name. But yes, Outlaw Star is so good, and I regret kind of like not starting with Outlaw Star.
I mean, you got to get them in the door, and then once they're hooked, then you hit them with the real stuff.
Yeah, that's when you reel them in.
It's weird to consider the show that lets protagonists die is the friendlier option.
Yeah.
Speaking of Bebop, hey
Yes.
Bob, do you have a Bebop update for us?
Yes.
Let me grab my phone.
Ooh.
I'm just watching it on my phone.
Yes.
Bloop, bloop. I am on episode 11.
Nice.
Okay.
So I have a question for you, Bob. You said you were going to watch G Gundam as well. Are you going to go cruise through Outlaw Star after Bebop? Or are you going to cruise through G Gundam?
Oddly enough, I'm probably going to take a break from Bebop, get through Outlaw Star.
Yes.
Because Cowboy Bebop is a show that requires a lot, I guess.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Which,
And-
not to say Outlaw Star doesn't. It's just...
It's a little more
continuous.
upfront of what it is.
Yeah.
I think how Bebop almost makes for a good like anime club kind of watch, because then it's just like, hey, we're gonna watch like 3 episodes once a week, and then also we get to like talk about them a little bit with each other, and because they are dense and you can sort of like geek out over them together.
True. Also, I'm going to throw this little tidbit out for you, Bob. I don't know if Joe had this one. I would assume Joe probably had this one. Stop me if you didn't. Or stop me if you did, Joe. So we talked about spin-offs and how Bebop, or faux pas there, how Outlaw Star has a spin-off called Angel Links.
Yep.
Bob, what if I told you Outlaw Star was a spin-off?
Was it the show Sausage Links?
Jesus Christ. No. I had it, and then my browser decided to do funny things. It was a spin-off of an older manga series. I don't believe that ever got a anime production, but it also introduced the caster gun.
Okay.
And I believe, and I'm having trouble getting the page pulled back up because for whatever reason it's not loading. I believe it also dealt with, or the reference in like when you go to the commercial break where it shows Outlaw Star and it'll say Future Hero Next Generation. That's a callback to it, 'cause I think it was like Future Hero and Space Adventure or something like that. I know I'm
Future retro hero story.
Thank you. That's what it was. That little introduction into Outlaw Star, or that little moniker, sub moniker, is a callback to that. And it also dealt with the caster gun at some point, but a different one. And let me tell you, without spoiling it, the caster gun gets very interesting later.
Okay. I look forward to it. I genuinely like this show. It would have been perfect if it weren't for the random slowdowns, which didn't appeal quite to myself.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that they're bad, but there was enough action, story, and risk. Make me want to see what else is going to happen. Find out how Melfina is a robot.
Bob, I'm so excited for all the little lore expositions at the beginning of every episode, and I can't wait for your thoughts on those. I really can't. I'm so excited for this.
It's so hit and miss. I loved reading about the motor or engine, but then the next one was about the grapple arms, and I was like, okay.
That's going to be a thing. It's just going to be, it's like each one's going to be a different subject. I bet you can't guess what the next episode is about. I won't tell you, but I bet you can't.
The Outlaw Star flies in space and goes,
nope.
Poof.
I will tell you it has nothing to do with the ship.
Oh.
It's great.
Gene finally gets around to addressing Jim and his weird comment.
Nah, it's fine. You're gonna enjoy it. It's gonna be your favorite.
You know what else is fine? Segues. Hey,
yeah.
I've got good news.
Oh, good.
You have officially graduated.
Well, I congratulate myself too.
He's graduated.
Yeah, nope, I can't edit that one out. You have officially graduated from the daytime Toonami tier.
Yay, except I watched the uncensored non-Toonami version. I would have been really confused and unhappy watching the censored version.
Well, so here's the thing. Now we move into the late night Toonami tier. That I should make up some, Joe. You or I should make up some certificates that we can print out as we get through each tier.
Oh, totally.
So we've done elementary school. This is now middle school.
Yeah, now we're gonna get into. Well,
I just bought a wax seal too. I can make it official.
Oh my god, that'd be great.
Do
actually,
it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is like some early. Yeah. This is some high school stuff. Okay. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shows in this tier. Are you ready to make your next selection?
I am.
Okay. Who would
I would like to point out real quick.
Yeah.
I would just something Joe mentioned when off recording is, it's funny that, or ironic, choose your insert word here, that Outlaw Star, which premiered on the Midnight Run, was part of the daytime Toonami tier.
It did not premiere on Midnight Run. It premiered. It premiered simultaneously on daytime and Midnight Run. Midnight Run was the less censored version.
I got you. Okay, then I was wrong.
They did the same thing with Gundam Wing.
I guess it's good we watched that last then, because then it's like the bridge between the tiers.
Yeah.
All right, who would like to do the tagline reading honors?
Oh, Joe does them so good.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So, like Nick said, we have 5. The first one is, listen, growing up was hard enough before the space pirate robot sprouted out of my forehead.
Okay.
The second one is, yeah, well, I'm going to go make my own Batman with super robots and androids and amnesia. Forget the amnesia.
I don't remember reading that one. That's really good.
I was proud of that one.
Okay.
The third one is, the secret ingredient is love and Soylent Green.
Soylent Green is people.
Spoiler.
The fourth one is, the Major has existential dread and a big old booty.
You can read the other one. I think that's the one that I wrote.
Though.
The other one is pretty good though.
But
she do.
Also known as, do cyborgs dream of existential philosophical conundrums and have a big old booty?
Oh, and she got a big old booty?
Having a big old booty.
Damn, she got a robot body?
Is it rocking everywhere? I need to know. For science.
Don't rock the boat.
The last one is bridge over the river Kawaii, as in the Japanese word for cute.
Uh-huh.
Listen, it's a pun over bridge over the river Kwai.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Also known as this ain't no Zaku boy.
Sorry.
I will start easy with Batman.
All right.
And how?
Oh man.
Hey Bob, did you like it when Domonkashu would call for for Gundam and snap his fingers?
And
it
what?
Just showed up?
And what?
Okay, you remember
Let's try
in
this
G
again.
Gundam, Domonkashu would snap his fingers and call for Shining Gundam.
Oh
and
yes,
it would
that's
just appear.
right. Okay, yep.
You're gonna see a lot of that here.
That's convenient.
Also, best waifu.
Best robot waifu?
Best waifu, period.
No, because there's 2 best waifus who are robots.
Listen,
also,
I will fight you with Hilda.
Literally animated by the animation company who did part of Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right, for the next episode, we're all going to be watching Big O.
Big O?
Big O.
Oh, just wait till you hear what the generic name for the robots is.
I cannot wait to hear what you think of the theme song.
Yes, I was gonna get to that too. It's like I am so
Oh my
excited
God.
for Bob's take on this theme.
Oh, you're wrong. I forgot.
there better be some explanation as why it's a big O.
Oh, you'll know. You'll get it like right away.
Okay.
Yeah, Bob. Everyone gets the big O right away.
That.
God.
It's the point of the show.
Okay.
All right, I think that's everything.
I think that's finally everything. I made a bullet point to make sure we hit all the points.
Yeah.
All right. That all being said, that's gonna do it for us. That's gonna do it from us for this time. Thank you everybody for listening, and until next time, anime.
A boy has a right to dream.
Big O. It's gonna be fun. Thank you, everyone.
Deep in the Weebs is a show by Chuck, Nick, Joe, and Bob. Our theme music is Kawaii Friends by C. 3. You can find our show on YouTube, or subscribe to the audio-only version on iTunes or wherever podcasts are served.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's fine. It's fine. Bob will have opinions.
I'm sad.
Can't wait.
Sad I'm not going to be in the room when you hit it for the first time.
Same.
Rather,
man.
for the second time.
I'm so nervous.
No, Bob, it's fine. It's gonna be fine. Have I ever lied to you? Don't worry about it. Keep going.